It doesn't feel like an impression. It feels like you are watching Michael Jackson.
That the family itself said, you know what? We're going to control the narrative now. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Mission Movie Reviews. Real talk, I'm Barry Gaines.
It's your homie, Jay Greene.
And today we're going to talk about the hit movie. Yes, it's already a hit movie, Michael.
Do you know what I'm after? You want to be the biggest star in the world. I believe music can change the world. Magic.
Starring Jafar Jackson as his uncle, Michael Jackson. Also, we got Nia Long as Mother Catherine. We have Coleman Domingo playing Joseph. We have Giuliano Valdi. It's a new kid, never heard of him. You know, he's young, so I'm quite sure that I believe it's his first film, and he did magnificent. I mean, if that's his voice that you hear in the movie, wow. So brother, what you think, bro?
So here's the thing. I said in my review, it's a very big mixed bag for me. I thought that the direction, Antoine Fuqua, he's a great director, so that was fly. The acting from top to bottom was dope. The scenes that we get as Michael when he was young, you know what I'm saying, as a member of his family's group, the Jackson 5, that was dope. It was engaging, definitely brought me in. I felt it. As he gets older, Jafar Jackson, I think, does an amazing job embodying Michael Jackson. Does not feel like an impression. It feels like, and of course, this is family lineage, so it doesn't feel like an impression. It feels like you are watching Michael Jackson brought back. And that was amazing. And that makes you feel a type of way, even if the movie's a bit shallow and flat. So what I mean by that is, look, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. I'm 42 years old. So Michael Jackson's been around, like Thriller came out like literally the year before I was born. Okay, so I've only known Michael Jackson my entire life. I got my son listening to Michael Jackson right now. First it was Beat It, then it was Bad, then it was Thriller, you know what I'm saying? So it's on repeat. All right, I love Michael. So going into this, I'm not gonna hate the movie because I love the music and I love the man. You dig what I'm saying? So I feel like the dramatizations that they brought to certain situations in his life, along with the music, made it entertaining, rewatchable for me, something I'll definitely pick up on Blu-ray or 4K when it comes out. However, if I'm looking at it as a film, given the fact that we've seen so much about Michael Jackson over the years, and I said, like in my review, you're not going to make everybody happy. There's going to be the really positive about Michael, and then there's going to be some of the negative. We don't need to get into the trenches of the negative, right? But you don't have to sugarcoat everything. So I felt like the way that the movie went, it focused like very much so on the relationship between Michael and his father, right? The brothers and the Jackson 5, that was almost like a backseat. That was almost like filler, just background noise. We never got anything involving him and his brothers a good amount, I feel, that would uncover his relationship, how they felt about him wanting to go solo, the way that he did it. I mean, let's not forget, this is family. And the way he does it is kind of like hands off, like, hey, management, you take care of it. You know what I mean? So from a film standpoint and a narrative standpoint, even though this is history and they're just telling that history, I had questions about it. So I'm like pulled in and out of the movie. Like, did it go down like that? Was that all it really was? Like, we know Joe was a tyrant of sorts and he's putting hands on Michael, but the mom is barely saying anything about it until like the very end. And at that point, I'm like, all right, well, where were you this entire time? So the things that were like serious elements in Michael's life that made him, you know, be the person that he ended up being, I feel were glossed over, very shallow. They didn't go into the weeds with it and give us more than what we already knew. And another problem I had was, being a film fan, I always enjoy behind the scenes stuff. So when you start to understand some of the genius behind Michael Jackson, the person that created himself to be the biggest performer of all time, right? We're not getting any real behind the scenes to the Beat It. You get a snippet of Beat It, which was oddly very reminiscent of like Straight Outta Compton. It was very weird, but you get like a sliver of that. And then with Thriller, John Landis, the director of the Thriller video, right? Yeah. And as theatrical as that was, at this point in time, we're not getting any of that conversation of Michael pitching the idea. Like, hey, I got this idea. I know no one's ever done it. I know it doesn't make any sense to you, but this, that, and that. Like, give me some of that. Also, I said in my review, Paul McCartney is speaking on the Thriller song. You dig? And
right.
I feel like his voice is also in the video too, but he's also on other songs with Michael, and Michael knew him. And we're not getting any behind the scenes, like, how did you get Paul McCartney? You know what I'm saying? Like, those types of things, like, give us something that we don't already know. Give us more of what we don't already know and some of the catalysts to those things. You feel what I'm saying? They touched on, you know, obviously the Pepsi commercial, his introduction to painkillers, things of that nature. So it's like you can kind of see what they're setting up. I know that there was probably supposed to be a alternate third ending, but then the estate was told, or the estate told the studio, actually, you know what, we can't put that in there, even though they signed off on the script in the first place. So that was weird. So you could feel like there was certain elements that weren't developed, maybe because they couldn't. They thought they could, then they couldn't, so they had to take it out and switch things around. But other than that, going in, if you're going there as a pure fan of Michael Jackson, you just want to celebrate his music, see a little bit more of this guy and some dramatization of some of those situations, it's going to be a phenomenal, oh my God, best movie I've ever seen, best biopic, this is terrific. But if you're going in there as someone like me, a huge fan of Michael, who, yes, it gave me all that entertainment from the music standpoint, but also wanted to know a little bit more because this is 2026, you got Antoine Fuqua, and you have all this legacy of his that he's left behind to mine for a great narrative story. That I feel was a disappointment and a letdown. But overall, it's a thumbs up for me for sure, but definitely a letdown on some regards.
And you know what? And I get what you're saying with a lot of these, and you know, you actually mimic a lot of the opinions into a lot of people who actually saw this film. And I understand all these points. And you know what? True. The movie itself, when it comes down to like the details of how things were really like, how did Mike think this through? How did he get it together? You want to kind of get into more of the weeds. But to me, I think that the Michael Jackson story has been around for so long, for almost 40 something years. You had so much information. You had things, you have shows going back from the 80s that I grew up, because I'm 55. So I was around when, you know, Thriller came out. Me and my friends were looking at TV when it came out, you know, and then you had the, you know, Michael Jackson American Story or something like that came out. I saw that one. You have so much. You have all of these documentaries on Mike that I think this one that I like so much so is that the family itself said, you know what? We're going to control the narrative now. We're tired of people telling us what we can and cannot do. We're going to tell you about our son. We're going to tell you about our brother, the way we want everyone to know him, the way we know him. So now this is what we're going to do. If you want to know about all the other stuff in the past, I think they were telling the world, then you got 40 years of stuff. We're not hiding anything. But we are showing also is who we feel that our brother, our son is. And also, one great thing about this movie that I love was that once it came on, true, I was looking at it, and once within like a half hour, 35 minutes, I said, okay, yeah, we're not going that deep. Like I knew right away, because I knew a lot of it already, because I've seen it all my life, right? And all these, you know, books and tales about it, about situations of Michael. Once it came on, about half hour in, I was like, okay, I know where we're going with this. And then from there, I just took the ride with it and really, really enjoyed myself. But one big thing about this that a lot of people are not saying about this film that I feel strongly about is that Antoine Fuqua, his reputation of being a director, all the work you've seen, you kind of understand like, okay, this is going to be a great film. We know his storytelling prowess. We know his rhythm. He's really good. For him to do this, when you say, why did he go that deep into it? Because I think not only, of course, he had the family behind him, but this movie is an reintroduction of Michael, for those that just love Michael, and also an introduction to the new generation of Michael. You have two generations who really haven't really seen Michael, too. You know, there's really about, what, 4 or 5 generations that altogether of Michael's life. You have about 2 generations that just saw like YouTube bits, parents telling them about, oh, it was like this, it was like that. He's not bigger than, you know, he was bigger than Taylor Swift. And they have no idea. Like they don't have any idea of the draw and the power this man had in the world. And everyone says, it was so funny and true. There was Jesus and then there was Michael. You know, like Michael's number 2 is that big. Everyone was going around going, oh, Michael. There's no one in the world that doesn't know this man. So when I looked at this, I was like, okay, this is awesome. All right. So the family's like, you know what? We're going to do it the way we want to, because everybody for 40 years been doing it the way they want to. And they have the right to. That's their right. They did it. Whatever. We dealt with it. But now we have our turn. This is our turn. And then on top of this movie, I just have to say this. And I know people are looking at it because, okay, so what I know I'm kind of flying all over the place here, but I do want to say this. This movie is black director by a black family about a black man. Now, I'm not saying it kind of plays into this, but let's be honest, it does in its own way. And then people are always saying, you know what, the others did this and why you couldn't do this. Michael's not like the others. Everyone's talking about how the gentleman, I forget his name, who wrote the others. This man is not like the others. These guys don't have depth and a background like he does. It's so dense that you even try to touch one thing. And like you mentioned, Justin, you're not going to satisfy everyone else. Because if you just touch it, people then going to say, well, why did you go further? Why didn't you follow up with this? So it's like you're never going to win. So I think they looked at it like, you know what? We're just going to reintroduce him to the world. Being that we really wanted this to be the number 1, but I know they can't make that excuse as just number 1 because every movie has to embody its own story, right? So I get that. And you just can't be waiting for number 2. But I know they had that in mind. And like you mentioned too, and everyone knows, you know, they were going into the allegations on the 3rd act. Things popped up when the lawyers came and said, whoa, you can't do that. There's an NDA going on. And I don't know how they slipped that. And they had to redo the whole 3rd act, which I think they did a great job. And I get that. But if you see what they were doing, this is no spoiler, guys. There's no such thing as a spoiler alert in this movie, by the way. You know, because we all know what happens. And like you said, too, when it comes down to like, you know, the father, Joseph, you know, he's the antagonist. We get all that. But what I wanted to get to was when they ended this movie off in 88, 87, when he did bad, what they're telling you is like, we're going to get to that. We want to get to that. We just have to give you the backstory, what we think that is enough for you to get, because everything don't have to be drilled down. I think that Michael's story is so dense, been told for so long, we could just throw a little nugget, you should get it. Now, if you don't get it, that's a you problem. We got the whole Bubbles thing. We got the little part when he picked up, when he was in the pool, he said, no, I want to make sure that Prince hears this. There's a whole lot of little things that's popping up that if you didn't catch, bro, you're just going to have to go into your history books. It's all right there. They're not going to go into. So I think for me, yes, I get it. As a story, like a full story itself as a movie, yes, it was shallow in that. But I get that. I get what they were doing, and it was very obvious. They weren't trying to be depth. They weren't trying to do something new. Like, oh, what do they want to do? They want to go here. They want to go there. I never saw that. I think they came in and said, here we go. 1966, bang. 1972, bang. 1985, bang. I mean, they're giving you these title cards. Bang, bang, bang. Here we go. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to have a good time. Now, one thing I do hope they do at the second one, Justin, on this, is I think that everything that's coming out, all of us, you and I, everyone that's talking about Michael's movie and what we like, what we didn't like, I think they're going to take all those notes and they're going to go into the second one and they're going to give that to you because it makes sense for people to be hyped and just have a great time revisiting this man's life. And now let's get, if they come out part two, and I'm quite sure they will, then they say, okay, now you're going to like feel like what we felt. You know what I mean? Growing up, everything that we saw, Off the Wall, Thriller, all those things. Well, what's his name? Anyway, that's just what I was going to say. But anyway, all that stuff is happening. And then when you get to number two, then everything is going to slow down. And I think that's what gives the same feeling we all have. Because you got to understand, Anton Fuqua, I don't want to rattle it off here, but Anton Fuqua is us. Like, he's like my age, right? So he knows what this meant when he was 10, 12 years old. Like, he understood how this felt. Like, yo, I want to give you what I felt, okay? And then now when everything started happening in 93, 92, the allegations start coming up and all these things, then you kind of like, oh, what's going on? And now the whole world is going to feel the way we did. Like, whoa, what's going on? We got to see what's happening. I don't believe it, but now you're getting that feel because the first half is what we felt. Anyway, so I just want to say that because there was so much involved with this film. There's so many little nuggets that were just thrown at you. And if you didn't catch it, oh, well. because you didn't need to go into it. This was the plan. Let's get everyone revisit Michael. Let's introduce Michael, and the family was like, we're going to now control the narrative and tell you how we want everyone to see Michael. And if you want to see anything else, you got 40 years of shit to look at. So, so it's one of those things for me. So that's how I looked at it. But yes, I agree. At the same time, it was shallow. But I think, like you said, but you enjoy yourself. It's one of those things. You enjoy yourself.
And the more that I think about, like I say, like when I come out, I feel like that immediately after the film. Like it ends on an amazing recreation of him performing Bad, right?
Yes,
I'm like, fucking go. You know what I'm saying? I love it, right? I'm so hyped. So like, yeah. And like I said, you could play around with some things here and there, but for the most part, as I'm listening to you talk about it and the more I think about it since I've seen it, last Thursday, the same thing. I'm like, man, I want to watch it again. I want to see it again, like right now. And again, like 80% to 90% of that is just purely because it's Michael Jackson. When we're hanging out with him, as I'm watching it in the moment, I'm like, all right, I get it. You got bubbles. Okay. You're that friend. Okay. Like, I get it. Like, we know, but again, I know these things. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I want to see the behind the scenes of the making of the videos and this and that.
Yeah.
But then I'm leaving and I'm driving and I'm thinking about it a couple of days later. And this is what the genius of the film, right? As it is, even though I was a little disappointed when I first seen it because it was like kind of shallow. The genius is that I just want to hang out with Michael. Like who at that time, the reason why he was so popular is because he was the person that he was. And they're showing him like, talk to the kids in the burn ward. You know what I mean? He wants to donate all the money from the settlement from the Pepsi situation. Again, these are not spoilers. This is history, right? Listen to your parents, kids. You know what I'm saying? Mother knows best. Your mom knows best. But like, you know what I'm saying? And all these things. And it's like, I keep thinking about it. I'm like, that's another reason why I'm continuing to be drawn to want to watch this movie again. Not even just because of the music, which it is phenomenal in the film, but because we're hanging out with Michael. You know what I mean? And one of the staples that a good movie has to have is there has to be a character that anchors you and you like that person. And when you look at like Straight Outta Compton, I feel like personally, Straight Outta Compton, to me, I might change my story later, but that's like the best biopic. But it's not really, I don't know, it's because it blends the lines between musical and person. You get a little bit of everyone. And I feel like this first iteration in Michael's story kind of does that, right? It does give you the music like you're talking about, introducing new people, reintroducing older people, and then also giving you a little bit of this person's swag and characteristics and just the way that they operated, right? Yeah. So yeah, it is a good movie. It is definitely worthy of a watch at the theater, again, for the music alone. But if you are a fan like me, just to hang out with Michael for 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm there with you too. Yeah, and like you said too, I have to agree about just, like you said, just want to hang out with him. And, them not going into it. So people out there, not going into like the background as much, like really getting deep. I did miss that, but it looked like there was some hard cuts. Although I think the editing was phenomenal the way they did it. I think the editing was so smooth in his way. But there were a few moments, maybe just because, I'm a filmmaker, we're artists, we pick up these things. We're a little more sensitive to stuff, both of us. But there were moments where I can tell, like Thriller, for example, I really wanted them to get a little more into Thriller. They just give me 30 more seconds, like just a little more, and of like the development and everything else. Though they did hit the point where some people said it wasn't in there, and I believe it was. And what I'm referring to is, why was Thriller made? Now, of course, it's his next album. He's an artist. That's what he does. There's a reason why that particular album was made the way it was, because he felt off the wall. Little history here, guys, if you don't know this. Off the wall. He felt that was going to be his main one, right? And that's one that's going to catapult him into superstardom. He's already a star, but he wanted it to be like the king of the world, and it didn't. He only got 1 Grammy, and that really bothered Michael. And he was always known for that. He was like, how can I have Paul McCartney on here and everything else, and I only get 1 freaking Grammy? So that's why his idea of like just getting Thriller down was like, okay, I have to get this right. This is why they showed him go back into when he had an idea, he was in his room in the backyard, just kind of thinking of things like, what can I do? What can I do? He was just trying to get to a next level. He didn't know what it was, but he just tried to get to a next level. And then one thing about that too, I tell you the truth, I didn't know. Like, I thought I knew a lot of things. Obviously, I don't. Because I didn't realize after he did Thriller, he was still in his house. He was still with mom and dad and his brothers. Like, I never knew that. He was still home with his family. And on top of that, he fires his father and like, okay, Dad, you're fired. Good night. It's like, yo, bro, that's hardcore. Yo, that's cold. That's cold. You know, and I'm like, wow. You know, I did not know that. So yeah, it's those little nuggets were good enough. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Let's get to it, you know. And I think that the smartest thing to do is like, let's get the people in the world back on Michael's side to show what he is. And then when we get to the second one, then people can determine whatever. We know everything was debunked, but then everybody can feel maybe what Gen X did, because I'm a Gen Xer, you know, and how we were and how we felt, you know, because that was our time. And we were like, wow. And the confusion. And then like, you know, you weren't sure. And then when things came out, you were like, oh, because you were older then. There was a lot of things that was going on. This man had a history like no other. And no other artist, again, I just got to repeat this because I hate when people say, well, you know, but Bohemian Rhapsody was better and things. Bohemian Rhapsody didn't have a dense depth like he has. If that was an easier show to film. That was just an easier show. What did he have before he was singing? I don't know. No one cared. He just met his boys in the street somewhere. I saw the movie. And next thing you know, in the alley, yo, you can sing. Yeah, I can sing. Oh, and he's already in his 20s. There was nothing when he was 10, 11 years old, antagonist, father beating him up. Anyway,
that's a huge issue I have with that movie too. And again, I understand that like what you're talking about. Certain things are just history. It just is what it is. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. But with Bohemian Rhapsody, everybody's like all about that movie. But I'm like, I don't need a person to have struggle, but if there's no struggle and I'm watching your biography, why am I watching it? What is this teaching me and telling me?
Right,
he had his demons, he had things that he went through. But like I said in my review, the resolve was pretty easy. With Mike, this is like childhood trauma. And you could tell his dad, big nose. So that's the inception that made him want to change his nose, right? Yeah. Getting beat all the time. It's got to be perfect. That's why he's obsessed with being perfect all the time. You know what I'm saying? From his looks to the sound, to the dances, to all of these things. And you're just watching his light grow and grow and grow in the midst of getting hands on him from his dad. So that's where the difference is between that. But I feel you on that 100% where people will be like, well, this is better. It's like, but what are you actually looking at? Are we looking at the story of the person and what they overcame, their trials and tribulations? Or do you just really like that music? Or you just, you know, or whatever, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely, man. So everyone out there, man, let us know what you think. I know you've seen a bunch of reviews on this. You know you're hearing a lot about what's going on. We know what people think about the movie a lot of times. But you know what? What about you? Everyone out there, let us know what you think about the movie. Hear what we think, and we'd love to hear from you guys. And if you got this far in the video, thank you very much for supporting us. Get the word out. We're trying to grow subscriptions here. You know, it's a tough world, yo. This is a tough land. So help us out. We appreciate it. And we'll see all of you guys on the next one, man. All right? Peace.
Holla.